In this video, we are talking all about that Haunted Mansion expansion, changes, whatever you want to call it. We're talking Haunted Mansion today. We're also talking about the Disney Treasure cruise ship, which very cool stuff kind of leaked to tease a big announcement coming up very soon, which we will be talking about on Citrus Corner. And we're also going to talk about Epic Universe and Google Trends. Look, a lot of fans, they love to worship at the altar of Comcast Universal, but here on OG55 we question things, so there's a lot of questions here in regard to that Google Trends, and we're going to talk about it up next on OG55. Welcome aboard to another episode of OG55. I am joined by Citrus George right here in the house, my fellow Italiano. George, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me, and it's always good to talk shop with you on Orange Grove 55. And I can't wait to get into it. We got some sweet and juicy topics tonight. And speaking of which, if you want to follow me, you could do so on X at Disney George. You could also find me as part of the podcast called A Walk with Walt. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. There you go. Well, make sure you wash your hands, George. Wash those hands, buddy. No, but thank you so much, brother, for coming on, talking shop with me. Today, we are talking about, we're going to start off with the Haunted Mansion. This was news that dropped a few days ago, and pretty interesting stuff. Neither one of us has really talked about this on the channel, at least. It says here, new Haunted Mansion grounds expansion retail shop coming to the Disneyland Resort in 2024. Excuse me. The stately grounds of the Haunted Mansion will expand with a spirited metamorphosis at Disneyland Resort next year. In 2024, the additions will build on the story and the lore of the Haunted Mansion and include an expanded outdoor queue to immerse guests in enhanced theming, as well as a new retail shop adjacent to the attraction's exit. Okay, now here it states here that local legends suggest that the manor known today as a Haunted Mansion was first built by a prosperous sea captain, Captain John D. That is canon, everybody. That is canon. No, I am kidding. It's not our beloved Captain John D, but a prosperous sea captain. To this day, the mansion staff faithfully maintained the happy haunting grounds. The expanded queue will tie into these stories and more, including new gardens inspired by Master Gracie, Madame Leota, and the One-Eyed Cat. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this first piece of art right here, George. This is where, this is kind of like the in-between, right? Between Haunted and the attraction formerly known as Splash Mountain, right? Tiana's Bayou Adventure. This is like, from what I understand, I mean, it's hard to kind of put my head around this. From what I understand, right now, in that spot is like, there's like a little merch cart or something there, right? And it's like tree stumps, very reminiscent of Splash Mountain. If I'm not mistaken, is that what's there right now?
Yeah, I believe that's all that's there right at the moment. Compared to what's right there now, I think it's great that they kind of want to expand on the storyline a bit of the Haunted Mansion and kind of extend it out because, let's face it, the queue for the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, it gets so bundled up with the crowds. Like, you don't know where the line begins and where the line ends. And I feel like, especially with Tiana's Bayou Adventure coming out, they're going to need that pathway kind of decluttered for a lot of that back and forth because to Critter Country and New Orleans Square, because there's only one way in and one way out of Critter Country. So, and that's through New Orleans Square. So with the Haunted Mansion already having a congested queue line, they're going to have to free that up and kind of give some breathing room. And I love how that they're just, and I know a lot of people online are saying, "Oh, they're expanding the Haunted Mansion. It's just for the queue line. It's just a queue line." Well, that may be true, but at least they still keep within the theme of the mansion, and it kind of ties into the New Orleans Square type of theme. And you get an additional merch shop, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with them. I'm actually kind of excited that they're kind of like expanding out the queue line and kind of giving some breathing room.
Yeah. Yeah. In regard to the retail store, this is actually really smart. Like they do have like little kiosks around that area selling Haunted Mansion merch. I'm sure they do buco business with the Haunted Mansion merch. I've heard many years, for many years, that Haunted Mansion merch it really moves. People buy that stuff up. And it's good to sort of have now it all centered in a physical store. I think it's going to look, number one, more attractive aesthetically to have a physical building to put all that stuff in instead of having like these little kiosks everywhere. Because I do believe the kiosks will go away now that we have the store. I'm assuming so. And I just think it's smart. I mean, Disney has for the longest time now had these retail stores at the exits of just about every attraction they build nowadays, you know? So this is one of their more beloved attractions, you know, Haunted Mansion. And I think it just makes sense to sort of have that opportunity when you walk out to go and buy some Haunted Mansion merch. And I know the Disney fandom, oh God, you know, it's such a dirty word, you know, Disney's making money. This is like, oh God, you know, I get it, but they're a business and that's what they're here for. They got to make money. Okay. And this is a smart move and it looks good. So I don't know. I don't have any with this in particular. I don't have any complaints. For me, it seems like a win all the way around. The Madame Leota stuff sounds really cool. You know, she's Kim Irvine, Imagineer Kim Irvine, her mom. So this seems like a kind of like a, I would assume kind of like a personal project for her. And Kim Irvine, I think she does a really good job with a lot of this stuff. So I think she'll respect the area and I think it'll be okay. I really do. Now, there is more to this, which is this part. Now, this is what we're looking at here is the queue, which you touched upon a little bit ago, George, the queue for the Haunted Mansion. I think there was like fast pass machines over here, like a fountain. And this is the updated art. This is what it's going to look like. What are your thoughts on this to expand upon? What are you feeling here, George?
Okay, so with this is where it kind of lost me a little bit. Now, as I said, I am all in for the queue. Now, just the overall aesthetics, like when I looked at that picture, and it could be just because it's a little bit distorted a little bit. We don't know what it's actually going to look like in the full flesh. No pun intended. That when I look at this concept art, I didn't know it had anything to do with the Haunted Mansion.
Right.
Like when I saw where the merchandise store was and that extension part that leads into Critter Country, that to me felt more like Haunted Mansion.
Right.
So this, I'm not too sure where they're moving with this. I don't really see Haunted Mansion type vibes with it, but I mean, they could have some interaction in the queuing, sort of kind of like how they do at Walt Disney World, right. Like with the tombstones and what have you. And it may look much different at night. You know, if they light this thing up where it looks kind of spooky and kind of like use those color schemes. I mean, it could look great. Just right now with that concept art, I'm not really seeing Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting art. We'll see how it looks like in execution when they actually do it. I think this is definitely a logistical move. This area in particular gets really congested, really messy. So I think what they're trying to do is kind of reconfigure it a little bit to kind of address the crowding and the mess that's there all the time, especially during the holidays. So I do think that that's a big reason why they're doing this. I agree with you. Nothing about it really screams Haunted Mansion. Once they get in there and we start to see what they do with it, it might look a little better.
And actually, they might even utilize that space for more decorations, like during the haunted holidays.
Right.
And what have you. So that would be kind of cool. Maybe add some like Nightmare Before Christmas type of theme to it during that time frame when they utilize Haunted Holiday.
Yeah. And this is an area like they've been kind of going piece by piece through New Orleans Square and kind of like readdressing stuff. Years ago, they kind of redid the area around Club 33. Recently, they did the I don't remember the name of it, but like the Pelican Bay thing right there.
Mm-hmm.
I you know what I'm talking about, the seating area, which is great, right there on the water. So they've been doing pieces of this area for years now, and this is like the last remaining part. Look, here's the thing, like for me, and again, if people can call me a shill, I'm just gonna tell you how I feel. Am I outraged over this? No, I'm not. I'm really honestly not mad. Because I've seen the other stuff that they've done in the area, and it turned out pretty good. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I haven't seen anything like super egregious in any of these New Orleans kind of re-themes or reimaginings. They've all been like decent. Some of them pretty good. I don't know. For me, I'm okay with it. We'll see. But again, like you said, George, the concept art is pretty underwhelming. It's just art. We'll see how it turns out in actual execution. There's a little bit better shot of the gift shop coming off of the Haunted Mansion exit. And it goes on to say here, and speaking of Madame Leona, we felt it was time to continue her presence beyond the walls of the Haunted Mansion with the all-new retail shop. This carriage house of the mansion belonging to Leota will be a standalone shop that was just dying to tell you more about in the future. So this is going to be a Madame Leota shop. Now, I'm telling you right now, everybody, the locals, the key holders are going to go absolute apeshit for this, okay? This is going to be, I'm telling you, this Madame Leota merch is going to, okay, Disney's very smart.
And this is where I get very frustrated, that people say they want to see something new. They want to see something refreshed from Disney. And it doesn't always have to be a new ride, a new show, a new attraction. But Disney is keeping up with the park. They're making things lively. They're making things new. Yeah, they add in a merch shop. Why? It sells. It makes Disney money. When Disney makes money, what do? They succeed. When they succeed, the stock goes up. So I don't understand where people get the gripe where they complain about when they say, oh, the Disney stock, it's dropping, it's like they're going into a hole, they're going down, it's crash and burn. Well, it's like, give Disney a chance to come up from the ashes, so to speak, and stop with the negativity with everything, and just wait till it's done and experience it yourself. Because chances are all the people that bitch, moan, and complain and gripe about it, they're right there when it's grand opening and they enjoy themselves.
Yeah, then it's forgotten like 2 weeks later and it's just normal and no one talks about it again. And here's the thing too, you make a great point, George. It's very trendy to shit all over the Mouse House right now. It's very trendy to do that. But it's like, I don't understand, like as a fan, and please, in the audience, if you guys are watching and you're one of these people, like I'm not talking shit, I'm not throwing shade. I legitimately want to know your mindset. I don't understand the mindset of fans who get happy when Disney has financial woes, when we get almost kind of giddy and celebrate when the stock goes down. And then on the other side, like 10 minutes later, they're like, yeah, I wish Disney would spend $2 billion in the parks and give us a new e-ticket. Do you honestly think, fandom, that you're going to get all this new stuff if the company financially is in the toilet? Like, I don't understand how that can make sense. It'd be like a kid telling his mom, I want all the new toys, mom, and then laughing about, haha, mom, you lost your job. Like, do you not understand that losing her job is going to affect you getting all those toys? Like, fandom, do you really, I don't understand the connection there. I get it, it's like Disney is a big baddie and it's like, it's trendy to sort of crap all over it. But it's like, if you're a fan and you want new things, you want new nice things, you should want the company to be financially healthy. If it's not financially healthy, you're not going to get those nice things. You're just not. So I don't understand the two. Now, look, if you just hate Disney, then fine, root for it to fail. And that's great. That's your prerogative. But if you love Disney and you want new stuff, the company needs to make money. So I just don't understand that. I absolutely do not understand that. But
Well
here's
said.
some more. Yeah, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And then we do have some new other concept art here saying that we also will make enhancements to the plaza adjacent to Tiana's Palace, which actually, by the way, I saw Tiana's Palace in person a couple of weeks ago. It looks really good, actually. The aesthetic.
How was the color scheme? That was the one thing I was a little bit concerned about as far as like the color scheme of the building itself.
It's brighter than I think the rest of New Orleans Square. Like a lot of New Orleans Square is a little bit more grounded and like the kind of the darker greens and stuff like that. This feels a little brighter.
Do you think
But-
that they would do this with the Haunted Mansion to maybe kind of tie in the color scheme with Tiana's?
Oh,
like maybe change the color scheme up a little bit. I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I mean, like, could that be Disney's mindset to do?
Yeah, I don't know, because I mean, the Tiana thing when I saw it in person, we were actually waiting for the train. It looks very New Orleans. I mean, it's definitely on theme. It's just brighter than the rest of it. The problem, I would have an issue though. It works for Tiana, you know, because it's kind of an upbeat sort of IP with the music and like, you know, with Haunted Mansion though, it's not the same kind of energy. It's a gloomier, like spookier thing. And you put a bunch of like brightness in that area, I think it would kind of distract from Haunted Mansion. It works for Tiana and for that IP. It doesn't necessarily work for Haunted Mansion. I'd be pretty disappointed if they go that same color scheme over at Haunted Mansion. Like I said, I will call Disney out when they make mistakes. If they do that and we get a bright ass Haunted Mansion queue, I will be livid. Yes. I will be absolutely livid because I think that I don't think that matches the energy of the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be, and that's what I was concerned about because on a couple of these concept pieces, it does look bright because I didn't really know that it was the Haunted Mansion. Like when I looked at this, it does look a little bit Bayou-esque. Like I guess if it was like, if the photo was more blown up, but like if I just glanced at that, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like the Tropical Hideaway, just a little bit. Yeah. And, you know, so, and it's like, oh, but we can't have that there because that's part of Adventureland. You know, we need it more, you know, southern, you know, bayou, you know, plantation type of thing. But as I said, I'm going to give Disney the benefit of the doubt. And I think they'll deliver, especially when it comes to Haunted Mansion, because Disney knows how beloved this attraction is to all fans. And it's a fan favorite for how many years. It's a classic. And I don't think that they would do anything in that nature that it'll hinder the experience.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I actually, and I might get some crap from this from fans, but I actually have over the years grown to trust Kim Irvine. I think Kim Irvine has a knack for sort of respecting the past, but refreshing things. We saw that with the castle recently when she refurbed the castle. I think she even did a decent job with Club 33. So I think it'll be okay, assuming she's in charge of most of this stuff, which I think she is. I could be wrong on that, but I think she is. I think it'll be okay. Go ahead, George.
Oh no, and then really quick, you said in the very beginning of this topic about the sea captain, which like part of the storyline, and that actually is incorporated in the new Haunted Mansion movie. They have a sea captain, so I don't know if that was kind of already in part of the storyline of the original Haunted Mansion, and they utilized that for the movie, or if that's something brand new, and they just took that P's and Q's from the movie and just kind of incorporated it within the queue for the ride.
That's interesting. So it seems like they're trying to synergize it. Maybe they thought Haunted Mansion, the movie, was going to do better than it actually did, but now they're too far along with a lot of this stuff for the attraction expansion. So they're kind of stuck with, you know, kind of following through with that. But that's interesting that it was tied to the recent movie. Very interesting. I got to check that movie out, George. Like, I got to see what that's about. I'm sure they'll release it before Halloween. I'll watch it on Disney Plus, you know?
Yeah. It's not a bad movie. I mean, it's not a great movie, but it's not a bad movie.
Yeah. It's not bad, not great, you know? Yeah. It's not bad. It's just drawn that way. Like Jessica Rabbit, right?
Yes.
So we're going to move on
to minus the trench coat.
Yeah, exactly. And a couple other things. Yeah. No, our next topic is the next topic is going to be the Disney treasure. Now, this is very, very interesting. This is actually a courtesy of, I believe you got this from Scott Gustin, right?
Correct. Yes.
So this kind of shows like the map. There's like a tease for the cruise ship. It shows a map and how it correlates with the actual ship. So you have the aft, the mid, and the forward, and you can see that the map is sort of like it's mimicking what you see above with the ship. Now, this is very interesting because we're going to go ahead and go down Speculationville right now. Take my hand, everybody. We're going to travel to Speculationville, USA, and we're going to talk about what this might all mean. I guess we'll start with the back of the ship, the aft. It's a big aft. I like big afts, and I cannot lie. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's talk about this. So, what do we see here? So, because I think there is some correlation here, right? Like Disney telling us something with this, with the back part of this ship, based on the map. What do you think is gonna what's happening?
Okay, so to kind of set the stage for this a little bit, Disney released the bottom section, which is it's supposed to design to look like an island with a lot of Disney IP in it. But the island is shaped like the ship, as OG had mentioned, the forward, the mid, and the aft. The photo above is the inner workings of the current newest ship right now, the Wish. And what Disney decided to do was kind of give us a little tease as to what we can expect on the Disney Treasure, but by also kind of looking at the Wish and kind of tying it into, what IP is going for what kind of activity that's going to be aboard the Treasure. So, as OG had mentioned, starting it from the back, if you look at the upper, the back of the upper top where you see like the ice glaciers and everything, obviously that's Frozen, and it's kind of too small to tell, but you can kind of, Olaf is standing there waving. So when looking at the perimeter of where that is on the ship, opposite of the Wish, I'm thinking that is going to be a play area for kids. It's going to be kind of like Frozen themed, to sort of like how they have that big obstacle course facility on the Wish. I feel like that's what the Treasure is going to have, but it's going to be kind of like Frozen themed.
Okay, interesting. And then you see here, when you go down a little bit, now is this Cars?
Now, I was looking at that. I was thinking it was Cars. So I'm wondering if that is kind of like a splice, like Frozen would be for the girls, Cars would be for the boys.
Yeah. That's
sort of thing.
That's a possibility. That kind of reminds me a little bit of Radiator Springs. You have the rock work. You see what looks to be maybe like a track. So it seems very Carsy to me, if that's a word, Carsy.
Carsy.
I'm just guessing. Yeah. It's funny. And then also here we got, it looks like Lumiere and Cogsworth.
Yeah. Oh, and before we go to Lumiere and Cogsworth, above that, you can't really tell. You kind of see like a paw print.
Oh, and you see Judy Hopps and
Judy
Nick.
Hopps and Nick. I believe that is going to be like a little dessert ice cream little shop, sort of like how they had right before you got to like the buffet and going outside to the pools with like Inside Out, where they had like Joy's treats or what have you. I feel like that's going to be a treat because the paw signifies the pawsicle.
Oh yeah.
So I'm thinking that may be like a pawsicle type of stand or something.
Right. No, that's a great guess. And then we have Lumiere and Cogsworth. Now, obviously, that would be Beauty and the Beast,
That's Beauty and the Beast. I think, I could be wrong. I feel like that's going to be kind of like a mirror as to On the Wish with like Enchante.
Okay.
And because the way that it's looking like on the schematics of the map is Lumiere and Cogsworth were the main centerpieces, if you will, as part of the lounge and the restaurant area of that. So I'm thinking that just like its sister ship, the Wish, I feel like Enchante is going to be part of that.
Now this is
we both were just going to say this is interesting. I want to see if you were going to what I was about to go to next.
Okay, so at first I look at this, I go, oh, it's Neverland. You look a little further, though, it's actually The Incredibles. Because it has that, the bad guy, God, I haven't seen this movie in freaking forever, but the ball with the arms. You can see it right there.
Right.
and that island that Mr. Incredible goes to in the first movie. So this seems to be Incredibles, but where was your mind going with it, George?
So this is where I was kind of going back and forth with. This could have been part of the like the obstacle course type of thing, but then I'm wondering if you kind of take it a little bit of a step further back, of where the placement of this is. Could this possibly be a Incredibles themed restaurant?
Oh, that would be dope, dude. I would like that. I would like that a lot.
Because where this area is kind of located is where Worlds of Marvel restaurant is on the Wish.
Okay.
And speaking of Marvel, if you move over to the right, you see Captain America's shield. And right next to it, laying on the island, now I could be wrong, is that what actually transformed him into Captain America? If you can see it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so
the
this,
chamber.
and this, yes, that is it. That is absolutely the chamber that made him bulk up and the whole thing.
Okay, so yeah. I'm going to double down. We just currently recently lost Rogers the Musical at DCA. Could this potentially be one of the shows on the Treasure?
And you've said that before in a few videos in the past, and I think you might be on something with that. I think that the DCA run was a test run for it to go permanently onto this new ship. So very good eye, George. I think you're absolutely on something with that. Now this right here looks like that fish hook thing that Maui from Moana has, no?
Yes, that actually is. That's actually a good eye. That's his his hook, his magical hook that allows him to like change and shape shift, because he's a demigod.
Yeah,
but it's kind of like off the ship, so I don't know like what to kind of take of that. Like I don't know. Did they just kind of throw that in there as? I mean, I would have to mean for something. I'm just trying to figure out what.
Yeah, it could be anything. Moana is a big franchise. Disney's all in on Moana. We just saw Journey of Water soft open, I think, for Epcot. It looks pretty cool, decent at least. I'm sure I'm sure they'll incorporate Moana somehow onto this ship, and they should, because Moana, I think, with the water thing and all, I think it fits a cruise line very well. I think they can do a lot with that franchise. Now this right here, it's so small, but is that Casey Jr.?
Okay, I thought it was too. At first I thought it was Casey Jr., but when I zoomed in, it's actually, it kind of looks like little buildings, but the representation of Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, and Daisy.
Interesting. Okay, so it's kind of like a little bit of a Toontown kind of vibe. I see what you're saying here. I see the mouse ears, the Donald Duck hat. So there might be some sort of Toontown-ish kind of element on the ship. That's fascinating. Maybe a food thing?
Now,
I don't know.
Now, where it's located on the Wish is it's a small world nursery. So it's funny that you say Toontown. Could it be like a Toontown-esque type of for like the little kids?
Probably. I think you hit the nail on the head with that, George. That's probably what it is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now the one other thing that I'm not, if you kind of look up like where like all the mountain range is, it's kind of at the where the back fin is. Yeah, so you can see like the mountains like coming downward, and if you look closely, you can see Carl's house floating with the balloons.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I'm again just kind of speculating. I'm wondering if it has something to do with the teens, like the teen clubs, because that's usually like where they have like Edge and I forget their other teen clubs. So I wonder if like they'll do something kind of themed where it's for like the older kids.
That could be it. Yeah, that's interesting. A good eye about Carl's house. That's a very good eye. Now we kind of move on to this. Now this, I don't know what to make of this. It's like
okay. I actually did some research, and I know exactly what that is.
Okay.
There is an older cartoon that Donald is dressed as sort of like an Egyptian pharaoh type thing.
Oh,
And you
okay.
can kind of see, you can't really see him. He's like in the center. And I kind of looked at
Ooh.
it and I thought, well, what does this have to do with anything? And I thought, it looks like a snake is like wrapped around the pyramid, but it's not a snake. It's a slide.
Oh, so that's gonna be the ride. It'll be some sort of Egyptian Donald
Type of
thing.
like water slide for like up at the upper deck.
You know, that's kind of a cool idea, actually, if done right. I like that concept. I like where they're going with that because the Disney treasure, and then you sort of have this Donald Egyptian thing going on with the gold and all that. I think that's actually pretty cool. Let's see how it's executed, but I think that's pretty dope, actually.
Now, if you go to the left-hand side, a little bit further down, it looks like a statue. I can't make out who that is.
Where, like right in here?
You just had your cursor on it. Right where the pyramid is, just go diagonal, but yeah. Oh, you just missed it. Right there. Right there. It's
okay.
There's like it looks like a statue of like a character, but I can't make it out who it is.
Yeah, it's too small. I can't make that out either. I don't know what that is. No, I can't make that out. It's interesting. And then down here we got what looks to be like a Jungle Cruise boat.
That's what I thought. And I thought, okay, are they like theming some of Disney's beloved attractions and incorporating them on the ship? And if that's the case, that's genius.
Oh, that's brilliant. And that's a perfect when I think treasure, I automatically think adventure. So this Jungle Cruise thing fits right into that. So I like that if that's where their head is going. And then we have this, which is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with the giant squid, which is pretty dope. And man, fans are gonna love that. I mean, if they do something pretty cool with this, fans are gonna go like the diehard nerds are gonna go nuts for this. This could be potentially very, very cool. We'll see what they do with it.
Can I ask you a little bit above where the 20,000 Leagues is? It kind of looks like a gazebo type of thing.
Yeah,
but
right
it
here.
looks like there's like boats kind of like floating in there. I wonder if they'll have like bumper boats or something that's like on like in the ship or something.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know what that could be. That's really strange because a lot of stuff makes sense. Like when you have the Egyptian Donald stuff and all that, I'm like, okay, the treasure, this makes sense. The Aladdin stuff, okay, this makes sense. This little gazebo, I'm thinking like Mary Poppins. I'm like, what is this?
Yes.
Now,
of course, remember, folks, this is just our guesses of speculation.
Exactly.
Once Disney releases, like, everything we're saying could be completely total shit. It's like we're just speculating of what it could be. Now, before I get to the center part, I just want to just say where Rex and Trixie is.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Right over here.
Yeah, that I can almost guarantee you that's going to be a Toy Story splash pad. That's going to be up on the deck. That's just my interpretation, which, if that is the case, that makes me wonder if the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is going to be a themed pool.
Oh, that would be, oh, Jesus. If they do that right, that could be epic as hell, man. That could be, oh my God. That would be so awesome. If they can nail that landing, that would be pretty cool, man. I like that idea. I like where your head is going with that, George.
Yep.
And then
Disney, if you need some ideas, give us a call, man.
Come on. You got the Italian right here ready to give you ideas. You know what I'm saying? And in the middle, of course, we got Agrabah.
Of course. Now that signifies the lobby atrium, which is like the dead center of the ship, where they're going to have the statue of Aladdin and Jasmine riding on the magic carpet.
Yeah, so that fits right in with the treasure. Love that. Now, this is interesting. Mm-hmm. Now, I could be totally wrong, and I probably am. where the little Mickey glove is, right there.
Right.
Is that Spaceship Earth? Right above it?
So a lot of people were speculating that was Spaceship Earth, and I forget who mentioned it on online that. What that is it signifies the crystal ball of Madame Leota.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Because now, if you do have something tied into the Jungle Cruise, could they essentially have something tied into with the Haunted Mansion?
Right. And then when you like when you think treasure and stuff, you think like artifacts, knickknacks, and stuff like
And
that.
unfortunately, I think I know what that's going to be.
What?
And I probably won't even see the day. I think that is going to be Haunted Mansion. Now, I could be wrong, folks, but remember, you're hearing it from here, and I could be wrong. I'm going to double down. I think that it's going to be the Haunted Mansion concierge level rooms.
Oh, that'd be dope. That would be really dope. You know what I would absolutely love? I mean, that would be cool, but I would love a Haunted Mansion bar. We have a
That would
Trader
be cool.
Sam's. I would
That
love to
would
see.
be. Uh, you talk about like merchandising and expanding Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. They put a freaking Haunted Mansion bar on a Disney cruise ship. I'd pay the extra price for that.
Dude, you're printing money at that point. Like you're just printing money. Like that would be sick. So that's interesting. That's an interesting one. Okay, my brain thought Spaceship Earth, but that didn't make sense on the treasure. The Madame Leota thing, the Haunted Mansion thing does make a little more sense. Now, what is this? It's
Okay,
like a little village or something.
okay, so the little village that would make now sense for Moana because standing right next to the hut is Hey Hey.
Okay, all right. So that's
that's
Moana.
probably where Moana. I'm gonna guess maybe that might be a Moana themed restaurant. I thought that'd be kind of cool if they were to do something like that. But the thing above it is that a teapot?
It looks like Mad Tea Party kind of thing, like with the little
Yeah.
mouse and the teapot. That's what that looks like. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking Alice in Wonderland. That's interesting. I don't know. I mean, that's what it looks like to me too. So we'll see. I mean, that's an interesting choice. And then we have this over here, which I am completely stumped on that. I don't know.
I don't know what that is. And from where it is now, that's also part of concierge staterooms because it's the upper part where like the funnels are. If they so whatever that is, it might have something to do with the concierge rooms. Now, this part was more, interesting to me than any part of the ship, and this is the front. A big section of this of the ship is, I'm assuming that's the Jungle Book.
Yeah, because that looks like what Bagheera. Yeah. So that's fascinating. That's actually, and again, like with a ship themed to treasure, I could see where their mind is going with the King Louis stuff and all the different jewels and the crown. I could see that fitting into the theme.
Right. But here's
potential.
Right. And looking at where this placement is on the Wish is the Walt Disney Theater.
Oh, maybe like a Jungle Book stage show.
I'm thinking because now here we go again now because I'm going to double down on everything that I've said now. If you look where there you have the Jungle Book, you have the Lion King, and then down below you see the Cave of Wonders.
Right.
Why would they have the Cave of Wonders over at the front part of the ship when clearly they have Agrabah at the dead center, of the ship in the lobby atrium? Because that means there's something that has to do with Aladdin. So if the Walt Disney Theater is around there as well, could that potentially be, I said it again, folks, could they be moving the Aladdin show over to the treasure?
That's a possibility. That's a huge possibility. It would make a lot of sense on the treasure. It would make a lot of sense. Now over here, obviously, this is Lion King. We have Pride Rock, and above it, we have a cute little adorable Pumbaa, which is interesting. Some of these things I got to say, okay, so it's called the treasure, and some of these things I can see the connection, right, with treasure. Aladdin is like a huge one. The Egyptian Donald thing is a huge one. Some
Peter
of them,
Pan.
though, yeah,
Peter Pan.
Right, but then some of them it feels very. Like, I almost feel like based on this art, like it should have been called The Adventure. It feels more adventure than treasure from what we're seeing. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I actually agree with that because when Disney announced that they were making 3 new ships, I actually guessed the Wish for one of them as the name. Adventure was one. which was funny. I didn't even think of naming something the treasure. I thought the adventure would kind of sound a little bit more better. It kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit.
Yeah.
And the third one, I forget what I named. The Imagine, I think it was.
Okay.
That was the other one, but yeah, it's kind of like a little bit lost in translation for me because that of all the heavy IPs, as you said, Peter Pan, Pirates of the Caribbean, uh, the Egyptian Donald, Aladdin, even the Jungle Cruise. You know,
Right. Very
it has like
adventure-y.
that adventure-y, yeah. So, but yeah,
Yes.
when you add in like the Lion King and the Incredibles and Up, you know, that is more adventure, you know, than anything.
Right.
And then also too, if at the beginning of the ship, now is this Coco or is this Encanto?
Oh, here. Right here.
That's Coco, right? Is that Coco?
Yeah, I think it's Coco. And Kanto is more like the really pretty house with the
The
flowers
house.
on
Yeah,
it.
this more looks like a Mexican village.
Okay. So again, awesome choice. I mean, the IP choices for the ship are awesome. It just doesn't feel like treasure. It feels more like adventure. Like Coco would fit the adventure
Right.
theme perfectly.
Now that is if we are assuming everything that they are showcasing on this, they are going to incorporate. They may not be. They may just kind of maybe some things are real, some things are not, and we have to guess what's right and what's wrong.
Well, we also have to see what angle they spin this, right? So at face value, Coco feels more like adventure, maybe, but like maybe they're going to do like an angle of like family is treasure, right? So that's the angle they're going to use with Coco. I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
That is true.
We don't know the context, so that's another thing.
And then you see the pirate ship, which that could either be Peter Pan or Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm going to lean more towards Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, me too.
Just because they already have somewhat of like the Haunted Mansion and the Jungle Cruise. So, you know, it'd be fitting for them to put pirates. And you're already going to have Peter Pan at the back of the ship where it has like the logo.
Right. And he's like hanging off. And that looks so good, by the way.
That's really good.
They showed that. Yeah.
Yeah, they picked that perfectly for that. And then at the dead point center of the ship is Rapunzel's tower.
Yeah.
Now, which that could be anything. Because usually the front of the ship is always the cast member pool. So I wonder if they're going to utilize that for something else, or could that be for the cast members?
Maybe it'll be a Tangled barbershop. That'd be very fitting, wouldn't it?
That would be interesting.
No, I was kidding. No, I mean, well, and you got the beard trim and everything. I
did.
The Wish at the Captain Hook's thing, right?
Yes, the Captain Hook's barbershop, and I have to say, it was more than just a shave. I mean, it was an experience, man. You got the massage, you got the full facial going. It was like, okay, that was worth the experience. Just even if you just do it once,
yeah,
it was great.
No, it was pretty cool actually. I actually really like the aesthetics of that whole little barbershop. It's very masculine, leather couches, a lot of like dark oak wood everywhere. It was just really cool looking, you know, like old school barbershop. And that's awesome, man. I'm glad you got to check that out. Like you said, it's expensive, but you know, how often are you going to do it? Just treat yourself. You know
exactly. And really quick before we move on, I went back up to look at where Tangled actually is located on the ship is the Census Spa.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, you know, as you mentioned, you know, hair, you know, could be, you know, health and beauty. You know,
right.
You never know.
You never know. When it comes to like, yeah, you're right. Hair and beauty, stuff like that, Tangled, it all makes sense. So it might be something along those lines. Overall, I mean, I think it sounds like this ship, the Treasure, I think it has a lot of potential. We'll see. We're gonna do a big Citrus Corner in a few days when they officially announce this stuff. And we can maybe it'd be kind of fun actually, George, on that Citrus Corner show, if we take this segment and we kind of do a compare and contrast and see how wrong and right we were on some of the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. We should do that. We should definitely do that.
I think that'd be pretty cool. So we'll check it out. I think it's what, September 5th,
And
right? So Tuesday.
September 5th. Yeah, everyone, please check it out. They did postpone it. It was supposed to be on August 30th. They postponed it because of the storms down in Florida. And it's going to be September 5th, 11 a.m. on the Disney Parks website. And I'm for sure they'll also probably stream it through YouTube as well. So definitely check that out. It was very interesting of what they did with the Wish, and I'm very curious because it seems like they're hyping this up more with the Treasure than they did with the Wish.
It seems like it, yeah. And actually, this is a much more interesting theme, I think, than a lot of the other stuff. Like, I'm a big fairy tale guy. I mean, I am. I love the Disney fairy tale. I have no bone. I'm not embarrassed to admit that. You know, I can be a dude and still like the fairy tales. You know,
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, I get it. You know, but the Treasure, though, I think this is a fascinating kind of direction they're taking, like the cruise lines. I actually really like this. And like when you walk in and you have the Aladdin stuff, there's a lot of potential here. Let's see if Disney can deliver. Let's see.
And I do have high hopes with that because it seems like they always do well with the cruise ships.
Yeah.
You know, the parks is kind of a little bit of a hit or miss, but you always get phenomenal service on the ships. Impeccable activities, the islands and what have you. You can't go wrong with Disney Cruise Line. And even if all our speculations are completely wrong, it's another Disney cruise ship to add to the fleet. I'm happy. I'm good to go.
Yeah, no, I fell in love with the cruise lines. I absolutely did. I mean, it's given the theme parks a run for their freaking money. I love the cruise lines. I love that marriage of the Disney kind of magic mixed with like the beauty of nature. It's just a match made in heaven, and it's a perfect combination. And I absolutely love it. I've done 2 of them now. I can't wait to get on my next one. I'm just in love with the cruise lines. So the Treasure. Really excited about what they have in store. We'll get official announcement on Tuesday. We'll definitely do a Citrus Corner on that. That's going to be a banger show. So everybody needs to watch that for sure.
And before you do, folks, please comment down below after you watch the video. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts, opinions? What's your take on the Treasure? What do you think we're going to expect to see? Because you may have different opinions on it, and you actually might be right. So when we do cover the Treasure on Tuesday's show, you know, maybe we can compare and contrast for people that give their opinions as well. So definitely comment down below.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now we're going to pivot to our last and final topic, which is Epic Universe. Now, friend of the channel, Alia Aloha. Okay. She is just incredible with her research abilities and everything. We absolutely love and appreciate Alia. We were kind of a group of friends. We were in the DMs, kind of talking parks, all kinds of stuff. And she brought up an interesting piece of information, okay, regarding Epic Universe. Okay. Now, before we get started, I know the Universal fans get really defensive. Look, we're not going to bash Universal. We're putting this information out there and we're going to talk about it. Okay. Because I do think this is actually pretty relevant, to possibly the success or possibly what the normies think of this park or the excitement level for this park going into it in 2025. Okay. So she's saying here the Google Trends, right? She said the Google Trends email newsletter that she gets this month and Google searches are the best layperson way to measure what the normies are intrigued about. The U.S. Disney parks are the most searched amusement parks in the last year. The top 5 most searched amusement parks on Google Trends: Walt Disney World, Disneyland. Now, keep in mind, folks, people say Disney's irrelevant. No one cares about Disney anymore. Universal's beating them. Disney's the has-been. Well, they're number 1 and 2. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe in the parks community in our little bubble, but not for the normies. So number 1 and 2, Walt Disney World and Disneyland. Number 3 was Universal Hollywood. Now that's interesting. Now I think that is mostly because of Super Nintendo World. So good on Universal. They definitely crushing on that. I think a lot of people are curious about the whole Mario thing over here in Hollywood, and Universal is doing a lot of business with Mario. So no surprise there. Number 4 though, Dollywood. This is kind of, for me, I don't know. It's kind of surprising.
Which that's quite interesting because I mean, I'm surprised it's like a search, you know, in Google. But I'm actually curious about Dollywood, so I mean, but I mean, you put Dollywood up against Epic Universe. That's, you know, kind of interesting.
Right. And then number 5 is Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. So now here's the thing. This is what I've always talked about. I've always talk about this, and no one ever really listens except for George and Alia. Okay, so basically, there is a huge gap between the normies and our little Diz Twitter community. A huge gap. Okay, I can't go a day on Twitter without hearing about Epic Universe from our little bubble. Epic Universe this, Epic Universe that. Okay, it's nonstop. Okay, so in our little bubble, it seems like, oh my God, the fervor for Epic Universe is through the roof. Everyone's super excited. But you have to understand that we are not normal. Okay, we are not the general public. So it's easy to get wrapped up in that bubble. And a lot of people do, and myself included. Okay, so I'm not like throwing shade, myself included.
And me.
And George, we all are. We're not normies. We're just not. We have to be self-aware here. You know what I'm saying? So when Alia shares this information that the top 5 Google trends for amusement parks have nothing to do with Epic Universe, I think, in my opinion, that spells trouble for Universal. Now, here's the thing. In that group DM, I'm not going to say names because I didn't ask them. I don't want to put anyone out there. But the argument was, well, it's Google searches don't translate into like actual attendance. That's true. And I'm not saying the Google search is going to make or break this park. I still think Epic Universe will be successful in and of itself. I think that park will be busy for at least the first year. But what this does signify is that there's a huge disconnect from the normies and the diehards. The diehards can't stop talking about Epic Universe. The normies don't even give a shit enough to Google it, okay? That's a problem for Universal. I understand the desire to, stick it to the mouse house and show them what's up, but we have to also deal in reality. And the reality is the normies aren't a buzz about this park. They just aren't. So is that a problem for Epic Universe? Now, here's the thing. To be fair to Epic Universe, the park doesn't open for about another year and some change, a year and like a year. Well, 2025, summer 25, maybe a little less than 2 years. Okay. So you still have a little time. But the fact that you see all this buzz on Diz Twitter and zero buzz from the normies, I think is at least a red flag. I really do. But George, what do you think? I mean, much ado about nothing. How do you feel about it?
For me, and yes, I completely agree with you on the notion, and not even just with Epic Universe or Universal, even when it comes to Disney. We know all this information to the nook and cranny of everything that is being said internally within the company and just us in general in the Diz community. Somebody outside that has a family of 4 from Colorado that just wants to go on a once-in-a-lifetime vacation to Disney or Universal or what have you, they're not going to know about like breaking news announcements. Disney is expanding the queue for the Haunted Mansion or what have you. They could go to Disneyland and see the brand new queue, and they'll think it was there since the park opened back in 1955. They're not going to know. So kind of going off of Epic Universe, I feel like they have an even lesser crowd when it comes to the norm that would follow them. For instance, you look at all these lands that is going into Epic Universe. You have Super Nintendo, which coming off of Universal Hollywood, that's going to be a major success. That's going to draw people in there.
That's the main draw, to be honest, because we'll get into the other lands, but that's the star of the show. That's the belle of the ball. Go ahead, George.
That's the belle of the ball. Right next to it is going to be Harry Potter, because you already have the success of Harry Potter at Islands of Adventure, Universal Studios Orlando, and even Universal Studios Hollywood. And Potter is a phenomenal franchise, very successful. The books, the films, the merchandise, the butterbeer, love the butterbeer.
Yeah.
That's going to be another raging success. But when you look at the Universal monsters, when you look at How to Train Your Dragon, to us in the community, it's like, whoa, this is like some heavy IP. I love the classic black and white Universal monster pictures. Dracula, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein. I love those. I'm a cinema geek. That's what I do. To a normie, they'll enjoy it as they are in the park, maybe for Super Nintendo or for Harry Potter, but I can't foresee a family going down for Epic Universe following the park because of the Universal monsters, or even How to Train Your Dragon. The trilogy was a good set of movies. It made money for DreamWorks, but is it really something that people are talking about that's like a high-end phenomenon like Frozen?
It's not relevant anymore. I mean, it did very well when it was out, but the last movie came out years ago and you don't hear about any of it anymore. And that's the problem with Epic Universe is like, and no one wants to talk about this. It's like Universal is untouchable, but like, that's what we do here. We talk about it. We bring this stuff up because I think it is an issue for this park. You have Super Nintendo World, which will be a phenomenal hit. There's no doubt about Nintendo will absolutely hit a home run with the Donkey Kong thing and all that. It'll be great. I'm sure of it. Harry Potter, I agree with you, George. Harry Potter's a big franchise, but even Harry Potter is kind of losing its shine. The franchise is sort of fizzling out, which is why Warner Brothers, there was rumors Zazie, I don't even know if it's rumors anymore. I think it's been official where he's going to kind of reboot stuff on it's like a Harry Potter series on HBO Max. So Warner Brothers is even looking like, okay, well, we need to do something because the franchise is kind of on the decline. And look, I know everyone's going to comment, but what about the Hogwarts game on whatever? The Hogwarts game was really successful recently, and it was. I'm not denying that, everybody. But here's the thing. Every franchise, like even Star Wars, I think Star Wars right now is absolutely on the struggle bus. And even Star Wars had Mandalorian, which was a huge hit. So yes, I understand the Hogwarts video game was successful, but for the most part, we're coming off the heels of these Fantastic Beasts movies, which no one cared about. Okay, you have J.K. Rowling, who's in the news all the time for all the wrong reasons. The franchise is not what it once was. On top of that, you have a third go at Harry Potter again in the theme park. So how many times is Universal going to go to this well and dip into it? The novelty sort of wears off a little bit. Now, this is the third time they're doing this, okay? So it's not like the first time where it's like this big like new thing, third time. So even Harry Potter is kind of it's not irrelevant, but it's certainly not the gem it once was, for sure. Then you have, like you said, George, and I agree with you 100%, How to Train Your Dragon. Great franchise, great trilogy. But lately, have you heard anything? Is it still relevant? Is it still on people's minds? Not really. The monsters, again, they're iconic. It's like Betty Boop or like Felix the Cat. Everyone can recognize them. But do they have like marketing power though? Like that's what I'm wondering. I don't know. Like that's the thing. It's like, okay, everyone can recognize Dracula and Frankenstein, but is it going to be enough to put people into a theme park? The last a few movies that Universal has tried to do with these Universal monsters have not done well in the theaters. So clearly there's an issue here with people going and seeing this stuff, and they're not being enough. It's not enough of a draw towards audiences. So we'll see how this does. But I do think this park has an IP problem, and it's taboo to mention that. I get it, and I'm sure I'm going to get a ton of shit in the comments. It does. It has a major IP problem. Aside from Nintendo, there's not a whole lot here, y'all.
And honestly, it's kind of a weird combination, really, if you think about it. I mean, aside from the center, that's not really going to be heavily themed. It's going to be themed, but not IP-driven themed.
Right.
Where the hotel is going to be adjacent to it. But just speaking of the IPs themselves, you have Super Nintendo, Harry Potter, How to Train Your Dragon, Universal Monsters. None of them correlate with one another. If I was Universal, what I would have done, and this would have been a guaranteed success point, even with the Google Trends for the norms, if they would have turned Epic Universe entirely Nintendo, not just a land, a whole entire Nintendo park where you have the Super Mario Brothers in one part, Donkey Kong in another part, Kirby in one part, Zelda in another part. they would have had a phenomenal smash success.
Oh man, a Kid Icarus roller coaster would be so super sick. That'd be so. And I know I'm aging myself saying Kid Icarus because no one probably knows what the fuck that is. But I think that would be super cool. That'd be really really cool. Yeah, I mean, there's so much. You're absolutely right. The IP here is on the struggle bus. Another thing too is people are looking at this like, okay, so Epic Universe is going to be a huge hit. Okay, now I agree that I do think Epic Universe will be busy for the first year. It's a new shiny thing. People will go. Okay. But in terms of being an actual success, though, like it's adding hotel bookings and stuff like that, that's yet to be seen. People are assuming because, okay, we have a new park, that means that people are going to go to all 3 parks now and they're going to stay and they're going to book longer hotel stays. That's not necessarily true. The normies might say, you know what, we'll do Epic Universe, the new shiny thing, and we'll do Island of Adventure. But the studio park, the last time we went, was really weak and kind of whatever. So we'll skip that one. Now, if the normies do that, if the general public does that, and they just go to Island of Adventure and they just go to Epic Universe, that does not move the needle at all for the hotel occupancy. For the hotel bookings, it moves nothing because you still have a 2-park equation. So all this talk about, well, the hotels, and that's the most important thing, that's fine, and I agree with you. But if people are still only going to 2 parks, you're not even getting extra hotel bookings. It's the same equation. So
And what go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead, finish.
Well, no, that's my point with that. Like, we have to see how Universal not only has to get people into Epic Universe, but they have to keep people going to the other 2. And I think that's going to be a challenge for them. I really, really do, because the studio park is not that. When you compare it to the other 2, it's apples and oranges. Go ahead, George.
Not to mention, Epic Universe is going to be kind of on property but off property. So where the current hotels are, the Portofino Hotel, the Lowe's Hotel, Cabana Bay, Adventura, or however you pronounce it.
Adventura.
They are adjacent to Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, City Walk, and Volcano Bay. Epic Universe is not. They're going to have their own set of hotels for which whoever is staying at those hotels, they will be adjacent to Epic Universe, but then they would have to take their different kinds of transportation to get to the other parts of Universal, which one can argue and say, well, you do it with Disney World. You know, you take the tram, the monorail, the boats, the Skyliner. That is true, but Universal is designed differently than Walt Disney World. Walt Disney World is much bigger than Universal. So when you have everything kind of compiled into one, that you can kind of come and go as you please, but then you have the newer thing, or as you call it, OG, the shiny thing, that's separated from everything else, then the occupancy for those hotels are going to be filled, and the other hotels that are near the older parks are probably going to see a decline.
Right, and that's exactly my point. It might cannibalize. Now, here's the other thing too, and I'm not just crapping on Universal. The same thing happened with Disney when they built Animal Kingdom. It cannibalized their parks, which is why you haven't seen a 5th park ever since. Okay, that's exactly why you haven't seen a 5th park ever since. So this is a real problem for this park. Now, another issue that no one wants to talk about is that, because look, as fans, we love to see Universal build things and just go super fast and get it built Universal. Let's just go. That's great when you're a fan. But here's the thing, that comes with its own set of problems too, especially when you're chugging along with construction during a pandemic, supply chain shortages, and inflation. Now, I've heard from multiple sources, people I very much trust, that this park has seen major cuts because of the push to build this thing with all those elements involved, with the inflation, the supply chain problems, all this stuff. This park has seen cuts because you know what? Comcast is not made of money. They're just like Disney. They're just like Disney and every other corporation. When you spend more money on steel and products to build your park, you're going to have to cut somewhere. So this park has seen cuts, you guys. So it's not going to be as easy as fans think it's going to be, and the expectations for this thing are through the roof, they cannot just build a standard theme park. Epic Universe has to change the game, change the industry for it to meet what these fans are expecting. They are expecting a game-changing park. So let's see if that happens with all these cuts that were made. Let's see what happens. Look, I'm not trying to crap all over this park. I still think it will be good. I'm just trying to open people's eyes that, look, just because it's not Disney doesn't mean that there's zero hurdles. Doesn't mean that we can't question what's going on here. I just open your mind a little bit and just realize, like, hey, there's issues here that they have to overcome. And you know what? Universal might overcome those. They might knock this out of the park. They might open this thing and it's epic as hell. And then, there's no cannibalization. The hotel things, the hotel bookings are through the roof. That might very well happen. But to just put your head in the sand and pretend like none of that's a possibility, I'm sorry, y'all. You talk about Disney pixie dusters, you're doing the same shit for Universal when you do that. So that's just my take on it. Go ahead, George.
And also, too, right now with the crowd levels at Universal, because I have seen, where the crowd levels are, and a lot of people are saying, okay, right now Universal is booming right now, and Disney is deflating. As of right now, I kind of see Disney and Universal as an even level playing ground when it comes to the turnstiles turning with guests. I'm not seeing an overabundance of people in the parks overly more than a Disney park. I see just the same amount of crowds. So I'm not seeing the correlation where right now Universal is ahead of the game of Disney. I feel like everyone, even as a corporation, is on a level playing field. Because as you mentioned, OG, all these industries are going through it right now. Right. So to just say, oh yeah, Disney is on a trajectory going downward and Universal is going up, you're kind of putting a lot of your chips into one set of cards here.
Well, yeah, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. Well, here's the thing. It's like, I've been in this community for a very long time, and I've said it many times. I've been talking theme parks online since AOL had dial-up, okay? That's how long I've been talking about this stuff with people in the community online. Disney was supposed to basically collapse or be like they were going to be overcome, or whatever you want to say it, however you want to put it, when Islands of Adventure opened in 1999. Okay? That didn't happen. Okay? There's all this chatter about, oh my God, Disney's doomed because IOA is opening up. Never happened. In fact, IOA kind of was a pitter patter. It kind of puttered out until the Wizarding World stuff years later. Okay.
Which again, people thought Disney was going to deflate from Wizarding World.
And they didn't. Disney was doing just fine at that time. And the only reason why Disney, look, when people say like Wizarding World influenced Disney to build like Galaxy's Edge and Pandora, they're right about that. But it's not because necessarily that because Universal like kneecapped the mouse. It wasn't necessarily because of that. It was because Disney looked at that and said, hey, they make money on that IP and that experience. We have our own IP and we can do the same experience and make money, much like Universal is doing right now, building Epic Universe. They looked at Disney and said, hey, they have a lot of hotels. They have multiple parks. We can use our stuff, our IP and our resources to do what they do. That doesn't mean that Universal is so hurt right now and they have to do mimic what Disney's doing. So it's the same thing with Wizarding World. Disney was doing just fine during Wizarding World. They just saw an opportunity with their IP to do the same thing and make some money. I think that's all that was. So that's kind of interesting too. I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see how this whole thing, kind of pans out. But it's kind of a taboo subject, and I'm sure there will be people that are very mad about us talking about it, but nobody else does. And I think it needs to be addressed. I really do.
I agree.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. But I do think that at the end of the day, I think things will be fine. Hey, look, I remember all the doom and gloom about Super Nintendo World coming to Hollywood. Remember all the doom and gloom about how Disneyland's done. They're going to take major losses because Super Nintendo World's coming to town, the whole thing, right? I mean, they certainly didn't. It seems like, if anything, it's helping Disneyland too, because Disneyland had better numbers than Walt Disney World this last quarter. So it's like, how do you know that that's not going to happen in Florida with Epic Universe? Like everyone assumes it's going to kneecap Disney. It might help them. It hasn't hurt us
And
at
I
all.
actually agree. I agree with that because that was some speculation for a long time as to why the attendance at Walt Disney World is low right now. People, just like the normies, could be holding off to do their Walt Disney World trip when Epic Universe opens. So a lot of people say, yeah, Universal's going to get Disney's going to get cannibalized by Universal, as you just said, OG. It actually could help them as they go down for Epic Universe. They can say, yeah, let's spend a couple days at Disney. Let's get some tickets and some park reservations, and we'll spend a couple days there. Even if they are staying at Universal property, they're still going to Disney. Or if they stay at Disney and go to Universal, Disney is still banking on that.
Right. And the assumption is like, oh, well, because Epic Universe is a new park, that means they're going to stay at the new Universal Hotel. That's not necessarily the way it's going to work. Like, we don't know that. Like, nobody knows that that's what the normie is going to, like, their mindset's going to be. Like, more than likely, what's going to happen is they're going to still stay on Walt Disney World property, and they'll just cart over to Epic Universe and Islands of Adventure, and they'll skip the Universal Studio Park. That's the most likely situation in all of this. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, that's what's probably going to happen, you guys. This whole notion that like, oh, well, Universal has a new park, so that means they're going to stay at the new hotel too, and Disney's going to be an afterthought. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. This is not. We'll see, though. And you know what? Maybe I'll be wrong, and I can always.
And we might be wrong, but actually, if you really think about it, don't tell me all these people aren't in cahoots with one another at these big corporations, that they don't go to meetings and stuff. I'm sorry, Disney people knows Universal people. And I really truly feel that if Disney felt like they were shaking in their boots with Epic Universe, they would have already made an announcement as a clapback to it. And right now, they're holding off to save the money. Why? Because there's a possibility it could do great, but not the numbers that everyone is expecting it to.
Yeah, well, I think in the fandom, there's like this energy of like, we want to show Disney, like we want to knock Disney down a few pegs, you know? So they're like rooting for this thing, not so much for the thing, but to send Disney a message, right? And I think that there's a little bit of that, but I think that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that, to send a message. That's fine. But I think if you do that, though, you still have to be kind of rooted in like a reality. You still have to acknowledge the weaknesses of Epic Universe and the situation. You can't blindly go into this like, well, Universal is just going to hit a home run no matter what, and Disney's going to be shaking their boots. You have to deal with reality. You have to understand that none of these things are risk-free, no matter what company it is, you know? And there are hurdles with Epic Universe, and it doesn't mean that the park's going to fail. They could check every single box and be a massive home run on every front. That's very possible, but that doesn't mean that there's not a risk of other stuff happening that diminishes that success rate. And again, no one else and no one in the community talks about. It's amazing to me. Go on YouTube. Nobody talks about it. Actually, I take that back. One person is, and I will give him credit right here on the channel, Poseidon. I don't know if you watch Poseidon on YouTube.
I have. Yes.
He's very pro Universal, but he's also very critical, and he puts out some really, really great content. He's been very vocal about some of the stuff going on at Universal. Outside of that, and I could be wrong, link it down below if people at home, if you know of more people. Outside of Poseidon, I don't really know many people criticizing anything Universal does. And it's really a shame, because I think it's good when we hold all these companies accountable, Disney included. You know, you don't want to give anything a pass. You don't want to give anyone a pass. Just because you feel like Universal is going to knock Disney down a few pegs, you still got to hold them accountable, because you know what? They're not going to respect you as a fan. They're going to give you crap and expect you to smile and just take it. You still have to show them what's up. You still got to show them that, that's not acceptable. We demand quality, right?
It's like Universal's jabs at Disney, like on Twitter or like on their commercial. Like, really, it's like that's how you respond to your competitor or what have you. It's like, if your product is really that good, you don't need the jabs.
Yes, and this is another thing, dude. George. You're taking us down a path where we're going to get so canceled right now, and I don't care. I don't care because I'm going to give you my honest opinion. I hate that. I hate when they do that, and not because they're going after Disney. Here's the thing, Universal. I'm just like honestly, like this is like straight up advice. Okay, this approach will always keep you at number 2. I promise you that, Universal. I'm old enough to remember the Nintendo and Sega war in the 80s and 90s, where Sega does what Nintendo don't. Remember all that garbage?
I remember that.
Right. And then the McDonald's versus Burger King thing. Number 2 always takes shots at number 1, and all they do when they do that is solidify their spot as number 2. So did Sega win that war against Nintendo? Absolutely not. Burger King is still seen as number 2.
We're not seeing a Sega land at Epic Universe. We're seeing Super Nintendo.
Exactly. So Nintendo crushed them. They stayed out of that. They didn't insult Sega back. They did their own thing, right? Burger King is still seen as number 2. All those attacks on McDonald's, they're still seen as number 2. Okay. It's a very much of a number 2 mentality when you go and you attack number 1. What Universal should do, if anybody from Universal is watching this, if you stayed this long in the video and didn't click out yet, what I would suggest, Universal, this is honest advice. Focus on your product. Make the best possible product you can make it on par or better than what Disney's making, and market it and sell that product. The attacks on Disney on Twitter just make you look like number 2. Just makes you look like, hey, the Mouse House is still number 1. When you attack the top dog, you look like number 2. Now, here's the thing too. It's like politics. Okay. When you're in the lead, you don't want to do the debates. Why am I going to go into a debate when I'm already number 1? The only thing I have that I could possibly do in a debate is maybe lose more ground because I make a mistake, whatever. Right. So when you're number 1, you don't want to do the debates. Same thing here. When you're number 1, you don't want to do debates. You're just going to do your thing. So do that, Universal. You're in your head, you're number 1. So act like number 1. Stop acting like number 2 with look at Disney, all the little shots at Disney on Twitter. And yeah, you know what, Universal, you'll get the laughs. It'll be a haha meme on Twitter. But at the end of the day, it does your brand damage. Stop damaging your brand. Start acting like number 1. I'm telling you, you would go way further. Way further. You want to really make the mouse nervous? Start acting like the mouse and start acting like number 1, and you'll go way further than this Sega does what Nintendo don't kind of mentality. So just my thoughts. What do you think, George? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely 100% agree with you. I feel like when you're in a position of weakness, you always go up in arms and attack the one or the entity that is giving you that insecurity. Right. And it seems like every single time Universal does that, tells me they are insecure. They are not confident. Then if you're not confident in your product, then how are we supposed to be?
Yeah.
And that's like where Disney kind of has that upper hand. And that's why Disney feels like they don't have to do anything. They don't need to build a 5th gate at Walt Disney World. Technically, I feel like they need to build a 3rd gate in Disneyland. They need to, but not because they are in dire need of it. It's a good game changer for them, and right. The resort needs it. But as far as relying on their laurels, Disney is comfortable with who they are. And they allowed fans to gain that trust from them. How many years? So it's like, we don't have to do anything. Our fans will come to us no matter what. Universal doesn't have that. Right, and that's why they have to keep on attacking Disney in that point. And honestly, it doesn't make you look bigger. It makes you look weak.
Yeah, it's like if you go up to a girl, a female, and then you approach her, and there's like a better looking guy or like a good looking guy across the way, right? And you approach this girl and you're like, I'm better than that guy. I'm better than that guy. I'm better than that guy. It's like all you're doing is projecting that you're insecure about that guy. That's all you're doing. So you're better off if you're going to talk to her, you're going to approach her to like just showcase your strengths and show why you're the better man. Show you're the better man. You don't need to say to her, that guy's worse. When you constantly point out that guy's worse, you look really insecure. and you devalue your own brand. And Universal does that over and over and over again. And I get it. Everyone on Twitter will laugh and it'll be the big meme and aha, you really pwned them out. You really got them. At the end of the day, though, you're doing long-term damage to your brand, in my opinion. And I've said this for a very, very long time. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll get a lot of hate comments in the comments, George, but that's okay. We will go down together, my man.
Yes.
So, George, I love having you on Talking Shop with you, brother. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X at Disney George. Check out the podcast called A Walk with Walt, which I am part of. We dive into a lot of the rich, nostalgic history of the man, the legend, the myth, Mr. Walt Disney himself. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And please watch out for the next Citrus Corner that will be coming out depending on the time frame of when we get finished. It could either be released on September 5th or September 6th with the grand unveil of the Disney Treasure, Disney's 6th new cruise ship coming to the fleet. And definitely check it out on the Disney Parks blog website, and also probably they'll have a link to it on YouTube on September 5th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Be there or be square.
Yep, square, not X.
Yes.
No, absolutely. I want to thank everybody at home watching. Comment down below. I know everybody has opinions on this, and I'm sure the Epic Universe stuff, it'll be really contentious. Just keep it civil in the comments, but whatever you think about Epic Universe and our thoughts on that, the Disney Treasure, your speculation on that, also the Haunted Mansion changes, we would love to hear from you on all those changes and what you think about that. Thank you so much from me and Mr. George, the Italiano. We want to wish everyone a very, very wonderful, wonderful evening. And as always, thank you so much for watching OG 55.
Heavy hitters, yeah, go winners, yeah, yeah. Put 'em up, who the will is?